Welcome to our channel and being part of our community. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. We are joined tonight with Cindy Fortuna, who she's not new to survivingbreastcancer.org. I don't know if several of you follow us on our podcast, Breast Cancer Conversations, but a couple weeks ago we released the podcast with her where she talked about holistic nutrition and some of these foods as almost like a teaser for tonight's webinar as well. So if you haven't checked that out, we can definitely put that link in the chat later on throughout. But Cindy joins us. I will try and do the due diligence for your background, but she is a certified nutritionist, holistic nutritionist. You are based in Canada, if I have that correct, right?
Yes, I am near Toronto.
Near Toronto. And you did not have breast cancer, but you had a form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So you have this personal
Yes.
experience with cancer through which nutrition has really helped you not just like navigate like your well-being throughout treatment, but also healing after a cancer diagnosis. So I want to definitely dive into not just your personal background, but now how you're blending this like personal experience with the professional experience that you are doing. You own your own company, you help other people who have been diagnosed with cancer navigate nutrition. So you are like deeply rooted in this from a personal and passion perspective. So we're really fortunate to have you here tonight. One of the
Thank you.
things that we're going to talk about, and I appreciate all of you who has shared questions in advance. We're going to try and answer and weave in some of those questions throughout tonight's presentation. But as someone myself, for those of you on the screen who don't know me, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, early stage breast cancer, about 8 years ago. And this presentation is, high level in terms of this is applicable for anyone with early stage breast cancer, those living with metastatic breast cancer. We're all concerned about either recurrence, does the medicine work? Is there going to be progression? What happens if my cancer has spread to my bones? We always are concerned about bone health. So whether it's metastatic disease and mets to the bones, or you're on an aromatase inhibitor and you're depleting yourself of estrogen and you're worried about your bones, all of these things are kind of interconnected. So I just wanted to set the stage for tonight as well, that this is really for all of us to help empower us with how we can take control in a situation where a lot of control is taken away from us. And so these are things that we can do that are in our power to do to help us feel better, to help navigate some of the side effects that we're experiencing, and to really boost our immune system after going through such trauma, whether it's chemotherapies that we're on or different therapies and treatments that we're facing. So that's a little bit about what we can expect tonight. Cindy, did I miss anything from that
No,
perspective?
no. I can cover. I'll cover off a little bit more just about my story once we get started. But yeah, that was a great introduction. Thank you.
Fantastic.
As Laura pointed out, um, this is going to be all about managing cancer holistically, and that's not the only way to manage it, but it's certainly one of the ways. And I am a registered holistic nutritionist. I was certified through the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition a few years ago. I used to be in the corporate world, and then I owned a catamaran in the Caribbean for 5 years, running term charters. So I've had a few careers, and this is the more recent one or the latest, and definitely one of my passions. Uh, as mentioned earlier, I have a sort of um, personal journey that I have followed into holistic nutrition, and it became started in 2018, and when I was diagnosed with ocular lymphoma, which is a rare form of primary central nervous system lymphoma, which is a real mouthful. What followed that diagnosis fairly quickly, within a couple of months, were 5 intensive rounds of high dose methotrexate chemotherapy that culminated in a stem cell transplant in March of the following year. That fall, I also underwent 4 weeks of targeted radiation to my eyes. So 5 days a week for 4 weeks. And the cancer it's not eye cancer, but it was originally detected. The cancer cells were detected in the vitreous fluid of my eyes. So there was just a little bit still floating around in there that they weren't happy with even after the stem cell transplant. So they blasted the cells that were still there, and that was back in 2019. So I've always been passionate about healthy eating, staying active, supporting both physical and mental wellness. And certainly the cancer diagnosis pushed me to take that commitment to an entirely new level. And it was during my treatment and recovery that I truly began to understand just how powerful nutrition and lifestyle can be, not just in healing, but in supporting the body through every stage of illness and recovery. It inspired me to eventually turn this passion into more purpose. And that's when I enrolled in my program to become a holistic nutritionist. Today, it's my mission to share what I've learned through education, life experience with others navigating cancer, treatment or recovery, or just ongoing management. As Laura mentioned, it doesn't ever stop. Your stages are different, but it's always something that's on your mind. So I'm here today to walk you through the nutrition and lifestyle practices that can help you to feel more supported, nourished mentally, physically, emotionally, no matter where you are in your journey. Just a little bit about what we'll be covering. I won't go through this in great detail because we're going to dive into each of them. I will say that although a lot of the information is specifically or not specifically targeted at breast cancer, I do have a portion later on, or as we get into it, that is very specific to that. Some of this information at the beginning is, I would say, more of a broader sweep over any type of cancer that someone is navigating and what the important factors are in nutrition. During treatments, and I should have mentioned also, if you wanted to pop anything up into the chat that you wanted to make comments on as we're going along, by all means do so. We won't respond or try and stop, but if you just feel like putting your 2 cents worth in, please do. During treatments, it's difficult to think about anything. Simply functioning, as most of you will be well aware, day to day is a challenge. And having support is the most important thing to me. And this list has things that you need to think about either during treatments, after treatments, ongoing, but don't try to do everything at once. Focus on managing side effects first and foremost. And if you've been through that, you'll understand what I'm saying. And introduce other changes or other deeper, more meaningful things as you can. Don't try and beat yourself up over not doing everything all at the beginning or when you're sort of in the throes of it. And we'll touch on these factors a little bit further on. But just as side effects seem to be front and center for a lot of people, I was one of those really lucky people. I didn't have a lot of nausea. I did during the very intense chemo right before the stem cell transplant. It was brutal. It was really what they're trying to do is knock your system down to ground zero and then build it back up again. So I was not well during that time and was actually in isolation for 3 weeks, not the whole 3 weeks, but a good portion of that right after the procedure. So those were my dark moments and not really wanting to eat or do anything that or sort of do what I was supposed to be doing in terms of nutrition. I'm sure all of you have your own sort of stories about how that worked out for you. What I like to do, so other things associated with that, taste changes, loss of appetite, all of those things that can sort of creep up. Don't do anything that isn't comfortable, but if you can just get some nutrients in some way, somehow, that's the biggest thing. And if you have some other things that maybe aren't so nutritious in amongst that, that's okay too. First and foremost, obviously, you're worried about your weakened immunity. And so trying to get the foods in that we will talk about that hit your immune system are going to be important. If you can't eat, I always say drink your calories. There's a lot of healthy things you can cram into a smoothie. I'm a big smoothie girl. And you can get so many things in there. It's easy on the mouth if you're having soreness or you're having taste issues. So those sorts of things are just good little tricks to remember along the way. Another really big one is fatigue and low energy. And that's a hard one. What I always say is really focus on keeping your blood sugar as stable as you can, because that's really the fundamental reason why energy is not going to be great. So if you can do anything to sort of keep that blood sugar balanced, not a lot of highs and lows, eating iron, and you're not going to be able to have all of these lovely foods that I'm saying are great. But if you can get as many of them in as you can, that's going to help you build up your energy and do that balance of blood sugar that is so important. Um, I know exercise isn't always a thing that you want to do either, but if you can get out for a 5 minute walk or do a little bit of stretching, no one's asking you to run a marathon at the point where you're not feeling great, and that's understandable. I was a big runner. I don't run as much now, but when I had my treatment, I honestly couldn't feel, I had the no desire to do any sort of physical exercise. I got out for walks. When I started feeling a bit better, I never forget the story of my oncologist. When I went in for one of my checkups, I don't remember exactly where we were in the process. I think the treatments were over maybe before the radiation. And I had these weird sort of bruises on the insides of my thighs. And I was a little bit concerned, thinking, what have I done or what's going on here? And finally, the person that was with me said, she's been riding a cycle. She's been doing cycle training, like a stationary cycle. And because of my blood levels or what I had done to my body, I was bruising. And my oncologist said, yep, that might be what the problem is there, Cindy. So I was just a little bit keen. But if you're like me, you have to do something. Just choose something that's kind to your body for a little while you try and get your strength back.
Cindy, if
Um,
I can ask while you're lingering on this slide, these are great suggestions of like types of foods we could eat. Do you have any recommendations on like portion size or how much like, if I have diarrhea and I'm seeing like, oh, maybe eat bananas. Am I eating like 5 bananas a day or one a day? Or even with the fatigue, I definitely felt a lot of fatigue during my treatment. So,
right.
how do you know when it's working or how do you know like how much of this you should have?
That's a great question. And definitely portions are a big part of it. If you're a lot of the categories that I am going to be talking about, for instance, fiber and legumes, are not easy on the digestive system. So if you're already in a bit of a state of flux with your digestion, that adding a lot of that isn't going to be very helpful. So what I definitely portions, smaller portions, do things, steam vegetables, cook
Mm.
things. That's easier on your digestion as well. Smaller portions, puree them if you can. If you can put it, I put kale in my smoothies. And it sounds disgusting, but you would never know there's kale in there. If you can't do kale, do spinach, do something green. There's so nuts. I put walnuts, pumpkin seeds, all sorts of things that you would think you can put if you have a decent blender or something that will puree it. But same with digestion. Certain spices are easier on the digestion. Turmeric, ginger. So ginger teas, turmeric tea, or even just spicing up or putting those things in your vegetables or your smoothies are helpful. And on this topic also, I think a lot of people that I've talked to, they have both constipation and diarrhea.
Hmm.
So then what's the quandary? Well, what do I do? So again, you can do things that um, that sort of support both. That go easy. Don't go, gung ho on bananas, as you say, eating 5 bananas, or doing something that is going to send you in one extreme or the other. Hydration is super important for both constipation and diarrhea.
Mm.
You might not think so with diarrhea, but hydration is important for so many things. But your bowels need to have hydration. So that's if I could tell you to do nothing else, that would be it. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Awesome. Um, I had mouth sores. I don't. I think that was very specific to the stem cell transplant. That was horrible. So there was a period of time where you just part of it was taste and part of it was just the texture was painful. So you got to go with the mushy stuff. If it's a situation like that, it's a situation like that. So, what are the nutrients that you need to have on your radar? And we're going to go through. Sorry, I'm just timing out here. Um, they're important to help the body defend itself at every stage, whether it's treatment or recovery. These things don't cure cancer, but they support the body's natural defense systems and improve treatment outcomes and just basically promote overall resilience and healing. So, a diet rich in protective nutrients helps maintain an environment in your body that it's less hospitable to cancer returning, especially when combined with other things like sleep. Stress is a huge one, stress management and exercise. And I know we all wish we knew the ideal way to manage stress, but I can't say enough how important that is in your treatment journey and ongoing, to really have a handle on that. So we're going to go into the various categories of nutrients, and we'll go through this list one at a time. There's different reasons, and I think instinctively most of us know that these things are good for us. But when you just see it in black and white, so to speak, and you understand what the value is, then it makes a bit of a difference. Cruciferous vegetables offer very unique compounds that support detoxification, your immune function, hormone balance, even cancer protection. So getting them in decent quantities, raw or cooked daily, is essential. So who thinks they know what cruciferous vegetables are? I think these days they're a little more common than they once were. This is sort of the core group of cruciferous, and some are more palatable than others. These don't
Jessica in
have.
the chat got your first one with broccoli. So
There you go. Um, yeah, and everybody loves certain or not everybody. Some people love certain vegetables. Some people hate certain vegetables. So pick the ones you like. But really, again, my example of putting kale in your smoothie, you don't have to just chew on a hunk of kale or have a kale salad. Um, there's really delicious ways to prepare Brussels sprouts these days. I don't know if you've been in any of the restaurants that are giving these delectable um, sauteed balsamic vinegar. Oh my gosh, they're delicious. So you think you're not a fan? Give it a try. You never know. Um, Essential fatty acids. They're another one that are important because they target support for inflammation, immune function, energy, cell repair, all key things during cancer treatment and after. And obviously, immune function and inflammation are always biggies. Um, who wants to throw in some essential fatty acid ideas before I flip to the next slide? I need to figure out how to see my chat here. All right. It's quite a list, actually. A lot of nuts, walnuts in particular, pecans, olive oil, your seeds, most oily fish. So salmon, halibut would be the big ones. Edamame, which I absolutely love. I love to throw edamame. You can buy it frozen in bags into salads, and they really give you a little more substance and fill you up a little bit more. So that's always a go-to for me, along with a whole bunch of other things. Probiotics and prebiotics. Sometimes they sound really confusing to people, and there aren't a ton of foods that have probiotics and prebiotics. I think Laura, you mentioned this the other day.
yeah, like
How
yogurt, like that's the only thing that comes to mind for me is like,
yeah.
the billions of probiotics that are in my yogurt. And I don't actually know what they are or what they do and why I need billions of them. So please enlighten us.
Well, and it can get confusing if you really get into the technicalities of probiotics, the different types of probiotics. So I guess my bottom line there is, without being a probiotic expert, you just need to pay attention. Talk to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, or get it from a source that you trust, not just sort of the generic brand in the grocery store, because they know what words to use on their packaging and their marketing to try and attract you. But read the contents, um, and make sure you educate yourself a little bit. Probiotics and prebiotics create a healthier internal environment in your gut. So your gut being a very important part of your any system and functioning of any system. Um, your probiotics or your prebiotics actually feed the probiotics. So
Mm.
it's important that you have them both. The the uh, the balance that you need for that to stimulate the immune and the inflammation fighting is important. So here's the list of probiotics, and you're right, it's not a long one. My go-tos are definitely yogurt. I use kefir instead of dairy products in my smoothies. If you get
Mm.
a kefir, it's nice and it adds nice texture. I'm a big kombucha fan. Again, be really careful what you're buying because they're not all they have a lot of additives in some cases. So I have a couple of sources and brands that I like. Um, Kimchi, miso, tempeh, sauerkraut. If you like sauerkraut, it's a good one. But again, make sure you get the raw, unpasteurized. Don't just buy the processed stuff that you see first necessarily in the grocery store. I think the grocery store is pretty good about having a good selection, especially here in Canada. Most of our stores have a um, health food section, if you want to call it that has more pure products in it. So just watch that. Prebiotics, I cook everything with onions and garlic. I even put garlic in my smoothie.
Oh,
So people later in the day might not like that, but actually, if you put a small garlic in and blend it in, and then add some like nut butter or something to kind of cover the taste stuff, it's pretty good, and it's just a good way to get a chunk of garlic into me every day. And I love cooking with onions. That's an easy one for me. So just pick the ones that you know you like, and then it's not so painful or hard
yeah.
to do.
I'm Italian, so I feel like garlic goes on everything. But one question I have for you, you may or may not be able to answer this. I don't mean to just throw you on the spot, but I really appreciate how we understand now that probiotics and prebiotics work together and they support the internal environment as you described for the
Right.
gut. But then how does that play out if I am having digestive issues or if I am like dealing with whether it's diarrhea or constipation? Should we, is there an interaction there at all or not necessarily?
No, digestion's a complicated thing. There can be so many things that are going on when your gut isn't healthy.
Mm,
It can be leaky gut, so that's the linings are permeated and the toxins are getting in.
mm,
There's dysbiosis, which is basically just an imbalance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. It just means your bad bacteria is getting out of control. Candidas,
mm,
parasites, these things all will affect your gut, but probiotics and prebiotics will only help fix all of those things. So
got it.
I am not aware of a situation in which now I should be careful. Probiotics, anything that you take as a supplement, you should always check with your healthcare team because there are certain contraindications or certain parts, stages of treatment where it may or may not be helpful to have that. So
Okay.
don't just say, "Oh, I think I need probiotics because Cindy said so." If you're in a certain stage of treatment, I would check that. But as terms of your gut and what it needs, those two things are pretty consistently
Yeah.
um, a yes.
No, that's super helpful. And, I think it's just me also not having a background in nutrition or even like my own biology. Like, I just think like stomach, gut, digestion, like it all comes together for me. So I think a lot of us too, if we're not like ensconced in this field, it's really helpful just to kind of understand the separation and how they interplay, if they do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and if if I do an analysis with someone or an intake, it's rare to find someone who doesn't have some sort of dysbiosis or leaky gut going on. Like it's pretty common for people these days
Mm,
to have those issues. It doesn't mean you feel it or you know it day to day, but it just means your digestion isn't on top of its game. It could be better.
okay.
And of course, there's other factors, your liver and other things that are detoxing come into play as well. All right. So we have that. Lentils and legumes. This is another one if you're having sort of sensitivity on your digestion, you'll want to go easy. So introduce a few at a time, make sure they're cooked. They are nutritional powerhouses. They are so rich in plant-based protein, fiber, essential minerals, healing phytochemicals. They're just such a great recovery and strength building food and great for long-term wellness. But if you've got bloating and gas and those sorts of things, obviously, as I say, start with smaller portions or well-cooked pureed versions. Try gradually, pairing with the warming spices like cumin, ginger, turmeric, a little at a time, just to so you don't blow up your insides because that's not very comfortable. And these are the lentils and legumes list. Uh, a lot of beans, and I love cooking with lentils. I make many very robust stews and soups with lentils. And you have to experiment with what your system is willing to handle. Some people notice it a little bit more than others, but they take on the taste of whatever you put into the stew or soup. So they're a great thing just to throw in there, and they're so good for you. So a nice addition to the diet.
But do you have a favorite between the green lentils and the brown lentils? Or do you use both?
No, well, there's red, there's
Oh, there's
green,
red. Oh, I
there's
haven't seen the
brown.
red.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of reading. I can't recall off the top of my head. I think it's more just the cooking time for
Okay.
for the most part. Flavor wise, no, I don't, because I've got them usually meshed into another pretty flavorful dish. I think the texture of certain ones are just they stay firmer than the others as well. So it just depends on whether you prefer not to have the mushier version.
I love green, but I haven't heard of red, so I'm going to look into that one.
Yeah, I've recently I when I'm down south, when I'm in St. Martin in the winter, they have a great grocery store, but you can't always get what you want. So I think that's where I first had to try red lentils because that's all I could find, and they were fine. I think they took longer to cook was the thing with them. All right, antioxidants. Well, those are always a superstar. They're your cellular defense team basically. So they fight damage, they calm inflammation, support immunity, restore balance. So again, whether you are managing illness or recovering, a diet rich in antioxidants is certainly very, very important. I'm guessing a lot of you probably could throw out some antioxidant foods. This one's a little more well known. There's a couple of things that come to mind right away. Berries are always right up there. Many of the fruits, but berries in particular are strong in antioxidants, um, and a lot of our vegetables as well. Um, so I find that's an easy thing to get in. I'm a big juicer as well, so I every morning juice probably 8 to 10 servings of vegetables, one of fruit, but mostly vegetables. And I bounce back and forth because the fiber in vegetables is also very good. So I do also eat my vegetables, but I eat in a day. I eat a lot of vegetables, but you can really get a good punch in at the beginning of the day or in the morning if you get a good juicer and juice it. And you can put a little bit of fruit in an apple or a pear. Otherwise, it's really not very very good. And don't go too heavy on the ginger is something else I've learned because that's pretty zippy when you try and down it all in one too. So you do your own little tricks to make it work for you. Raw foods. This is another one. If you're having digestive issues, you got to be careful. They are a valuable part of a healing diet when managing illness because they provide living nutrients and enzymes. They're great for digestive enzymes and antioxidants, and they're in their most bioavailable and unprocessed form. So that's why they're good. And again, if you're in a situation where your gut's a little sensitive, you don't want to go too crazy with that. But if you can get a few in a day, that's going to be helpful for sure. Um, and when it's appropriate, when you feel like you're willing to give it a shot. raw foods, I don't need to go into details of what they are because raw is raw. I'm mostly referring to nuts and seeds and vegetables and fruits. High fiber foods. Another one, again, if your system's a little off, don't go crazy. They do feed your gut the good stuff. They clear out the toxins. Their fiber is good for balancing blood sugar as well. And that's another thing that I mentioned earlier that's super important for energy levels is one of the big things. And so if you can make sure really you're trying to get fiber, protein, and healthy fats in sort of not even amounts, but all day long. Protein is usually a little more, depends on the body type and the situation, but um, figure out what your levels are. But fiber is certainly one of the big important ones. And if it's during acute treatment periods or surgery or gut sensitivity for whatever reason, just increase it really slowly. And also drink plenty of water. That again, the hydration is really important to mitigate any of the gas and the bloating that could happen. High fiber foods. Well, again, I think that's probably a little bit more known in terms of what those are. It's a pretty good list. The beans and the lentils, of course. Avocado is a good one. That's another something that I throw in my smoothie. You're gonna soon realize I throw almost everything except the kitchen sink into my smoothies. Avocado gives it a really nice creamy texture. If you like it a little thicker, if you're not keen on putting a lot of banana in, but avocado does a great job of just giving it a lovely texture. All the seeds, the chia, oats, brown rice, quinoa, the greens, the veggies, all great for fiber. And I should mention these lists I'm giving you are not all inclusive. I'm giving you sort of a lot of the mainstream stuff, but you could do your own research or find probably longer lists. I actually have something for you that I'm going to tell you about later that has each category and the foods that are associated with them. And last but
I'm
not
also
least,
starting to notice, actually, even if you go back to that last slide, there's a lot of like repeats, right? Like we talked about lentils and legumes, but that's also
yes,
high fiber. We were talking
yep,
about like broccoli, but that's also, that could be raw. And so it's almost like you're getting a lot of points in a variety of areas based on these foods.
that's exactly right. That's a really good point. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, you don't have to go out and have a pantry or a fridge full of a pile of different things. There's a few key ones
Hmm.
that really I find do it for me. And you know, you is the key I think is more if you can get things fresh and not have processed. That
Hmm.
takes a little bit more time and money, but it's definitely worth it. All right, so the alkalized foods, they are also very supportive for reducing inflammation, helping with detox, boosting cellular energy. They provide minerals, antioxidants, and the hydration the body needs to repair and recover and protect itself. So lesser known sort of category, I guess, of foods. Um, and there's a certain pH level your body's supposed to have. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of that, but alkalized are particularly important for these things. And again, you'll see some repeats. What are the alkalized foods? Sea vegetables isn't a common one, and you'd have to go to a specialty store or a health food store to get them, but you can certainly find them. But the other items are all pretty mainstream things that I find easy to get into my diet on a daily basis or mostly daily basis. All right. So that was a lot of information. Now, I did promise that I wanted to sort of go over just a couple of slides on specific to support, oops, sorry, to support breast cancer healing. So you're going to see a lot of repeats in here. Those cruciferous vegetables, the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, ESAs, fiber. Very clearly, I probably don't really have to say this, but I do just because when we hear it out loud, it makes us think. Really, it's whole foods, no processed, low sugar. So that doesn't mean no sugar. And I'd be the first to say I'm not the most um, always following that rule, but it's certainly something to keep in mind. Laura, we talked a little bit about phytoestrogens the other day, I think, and I know
Yes.
you guys are probably all far more expert in this category than I am. My understanding is that there are certain the whole food phytoestrogens are certainly the ones that you want to stick with, and that they help block stronger estrogens and regulate hormone balance. I'm not going to argue with any medical professional or recent research,
Yeah.
but you want to be obviously including the whole food if you're going to look at it
Yeah, this is
at all.
so interesting because, some people may know or may not know this about me, but before my cancer diagnosis, I was a strict vegan. So I think I became a vegetarian at the age of 16, then matriculated from vegetarianism to veganism in my 20s, and then got diagnosed with breast cancer in my 30s. And you cannot imagine how upset I was because I was eating basically all of these foods, maybe not the kefir because I haven't tried that one yet, but basically eating all of these foods and still got breast cancer. So you can only imagine like the 180 I felt. And then now realizing, it wasn't because I was a vegan that I got cancer. It wasn't because I wasn't healthy that I got cancer. There was all these other factors that I'm now more aware of. But because I was eating such a healthy diet at the time, it actually helped me navigate my treatment. I mean, still had side effects, but probably not as severe as they could have been. But then I've kind of swung the pendulum, right? Like you get really upset. My husband was like, "We're going out for steak. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what are we gonna do?" And I know in this presentation we haven't really talked about meat either, but 8 years later in survivorship, I'm now finding this new balance of like, what does my healthy diet in survivorship actually look like? And I remember being hormonal positive, estrogen positive with my breast cancer diagnosis, and then also like super concerned that what if I'm eating these foods like flaxseed and I was putting flaxseed on top of my yogurt every day. I was adding flaxseed to my smoothie. And now all of a sudden there's this word of estrogen in it. And I was horrified that, oh my gosh, am I actually feeding myself like cancerous foods for foods that were causing my cancer? Especially as a vegan when I was eating a lot of lentils, a lot of chickpea, a lot of tofu, etc. And I've like this the pendulum swings back and what my oncologist says is like, Laura, there is no amount of phytoestrogen foods that you can actually eat that would give you cancer, right? The point is that yes, these are phytoestrogens and um, they replicate estrogen, but that doesn't mean that it's feeding your estrogen positive breast cancer. And so I'm not a medical professional, Cindy. I know you already gave the disclaimer.
Yep.
This is all like
No.
you know, take this information and talk to your doctor about it. But to me, that was just so reassuring because I do talk to women and some men with breast cancer, but mainly women who are like, oh my gosh, I got breast cancer. I'm giving up alcohol. I'm giving up sugar. I'm not eating. I'm not, you go so extreme because we want to have some level of control. And
Yeah.
I totally get that and understand that. And then I also want to reassure us that it is okay. I'm Italian, like I said. I drink the red wine. I'm eating the phytoestrogen foods, and I'm going to have my chocolate cake sometimes too. So
Right.
I wanted to just
Right.
kind of like linger on that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it, from what I understand, is just making sure your metabolism is functioning properly so that you can get detox the estrogen that you don't want. So it's not just about what you're putting in; it's how your body's functioning, how your liver's functioning,
Hmm.
and detoxing your body as well. So that's really good information, Laura. I think we all need to take that to heart because I know the knee jerk reaction is, oh my gosh, I can't ever have that again or do that again, and you have to be
Yeah,
sensitive to things, but there's a happy medium, I think,
absolutely.
for sure. Um, so you mentioned um, meats, organic foods when possible. And I know the whole organic thing is kind of a topic of discussion in itself. You know what they call organic and what they market things as, and what really is, what really isn't. So you have to dig pretty deep, but you can figure it out. I feel like organic foods, whenever possible, truly organic. If you can grow them yourself, that's the best. I am not in that situation, unfortunately. And if you are going to have lean or have meat, lean and organic, again from a good source. And then the whole plastics and skincare and household products. There's so many things, and it's more money but it's worth it in my mind to get the truly pure stuff that you're putting on your skin every day, or that you're using for cleaning every week. I mentioned stress and sleep. That is going to be the case for any type of illness, but certainly when you're going through the stress of treatment and recovery, it is so important to have a good nighttime routine to sort of get yourself to the point where you can relax at night, have a restful 7 to 9 hours. Yoga's not for everyone, meditation's not for everyone, whatever it is, gardening, playing the guitar, journaling, playing games, whatever it is that gives you your zen, just you need to incorporate that into your environment, and not just evening, but always as part of your daily routine. There's certain things you just have to try and avoid when it comes to sleep. One of the big ones I always think about is not watching TV, not having a screen. But how many of you usually that's when the big family conversations occur after dinner or at dinner, or right before you're ready to go to bed? There's a big discussion about something. Those discussions need to be put aside and maybe parked for the next morning, because getting ourselves all hyped up, and it might even be something happy, but just not a good time to really get into that stuff. Give yourself like a couple of hours to sort of debrief and decompress so that your body's ready to sleep. I did put in just a little section there on detoxing and estrogen metabolism. There are certain foods that are said to be better for liver health, which are the bitter greens and the beets, and just a nice glass of lemon water every morning. That's always something I do religiously. I have my little lemon squeezer, and I either have it hot or cold in the morning, and gets your digestion going and supports your liver. The other things we talked about for detox, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of dry brushing. I haven't tried it, but it's a thing you do on your skin. You'd have to look it up to get the technical explanation, but if you're into sort of a gentle detox, that's one way, and sweating, of course, and hydration are two more common ones. Stress we've talked about. I can't stress that enough. The immune system foods that came up earlier. Avoiding alcohol, sugar, caffeine, artificial sweeteners. As Laura said, you can't cut everything out, but just go easy. That can be treats. I love my red wine as well. And if someone told me I couldn't have red wine, I would be very, very sad. So I understand everything in moderation. And the walking and exercising. As I mentioned, I used to be a runner, and I did continue to run, but I can be seen when I walk every day doing my arm exercises. And I think people recognize me now in my regular walk routes. So I do some upper body strengthening every day for like 5 minutes, 30 seconds, 45 seconds per exercise. And I actually have had people say, "Oh, you look like you're working out." And it's just an everyday thing. Doesn't cost me money. I build it into my normal routine. If you're a yoga person, do yoga. If you have a sport that you like, or you're a cyclist, you find you, and just try and build it into your routine in whatever way you can, because movement is super important for hormones, for energy, for mood, for all that good stuff. So, Laura, that's kind of the end of the sort of food piece. I think some of this next part is just diving into the stress and the sleep and the other areas, but I want to be mindful of our time. So if that's a good place to sort of take a pause for
Yeah,
questions.
I think so. If we want to, I know I want to share your last slide, which has all of your contact information and how
All
people can
right,
get a hold of you as well. So we can
there
put
we
this
go.
up here for more information. And everyone who's here tonight, I don't know if we're going to put it in the chat or I can send it to participants afterwards. I know you have that free guide that people can download as well from your website with the
Right,
food
and the free guide
categories.
has each of the nutrition of the categories that we talked about with all the foods listed in each of them. So it's really helpful. And um, cancer is a very unique journey. We've just scratched the surface today on many things. So if you feel inclined, if you want to contact, go to the website, ask for that guide. I will gladly send it to you. And actually, you will be able to just log in and see it yourself. And if you are getting feeling a need to take a deeper dive into wellness and nutrition, I'm here for you.
Cindy, I really appreciate your time tonight, your expertise, your compassion for how you approach holistic nutrition, and the work that you do to support us as cancer patients. So thank you for being here.
Well, I very much appreciate the opportunity and thank you for inviting me and introducing me to this lovely group of people. Sounds like you have a really strong network and you're all amazing and doing a great job already. So if anything I can um, present tonight helps, I hope that's the case.
If you like today's content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Thanks for watching.